It's a bright sunny day and we're here now on the Isle of Whithorn. We're here for two reasons. Firstly, we're on the trail of St Ninian and we hope to interview some local people that might help us in our quest to find Ninian, that great saint of Scotland. We're also here to take part in Ninian for Real. This is an exhibition that Jean Patterson has organised in one of the local village halls. It basically goes through the house that John built, stating where Ninian comes on the journey. Kevin and Ellen are also going to organise a coracle course, and I believe we've got 6 punters who are going to take part in that. And hopefully come Saturday they'll be launching themselves somewhere down here. This is the harbour that I'm sitting on at the moment, and they'll be launching themselves into the water, into the harbour, and they've actually got a lifeguard who's coming to make sure that they don't wander off and float to island. But first, let's take a look on the map and find out where exactly we are. Right, if I have a look at our European Road Atlas, if I can find the page. I'm not very good at geography, I'm afraid. Hang on, we're up in Scotland. And if we can get a look at the map, we're in the west of Scotland, and the bit that sticks right out. And here we are. Oh, this is Whithorn here. And just down from Whithorn is the Isle of Whithorn. There's a bit of a dispute going on at the moment where exactly St Ninian's monastery was located. Some people are saying it was in the town of Whithorn, others are saying it was actually on the Isle of Whithorn. Perhaps we'll find out about that while we're... Before we go on the trail of St Ninian, let's remind ourselves what we already know. First, Ninian was born about 360. Some people claim he was born in Scotland at Galloway, while others claim he was born just down the coast here, going that way to Cumbria. It doesn't really matter. What we know is that Ninian had a life, that he was a real person. The other thing that we know from church tradition is that when Ninian was a young man, he visited Rome. And on the way back, it's said that he called it tours and he became great friends with St Martin. It was Martin who taught Ninian the monastic way. And it was that monastic way that Ninian was going to bring home here to the Isle of Whithorn. Martin sent with him, because Martin was a very practical man, Martin sent with him stonemasons, and Ninian's monastery was built in the European way. It was actually called Canada Casa, which means the White House, and that's because it was distinctive in that it was a whitewashed building. Now there's lots of archaeological digs going on here at the moment, and some people claim that 2 miles away in the village of Whithorn, that's the probable location of the monastery, while others suggest that it's here on the Isle of Whithorn that the monastery was actually built. We'll not know, but what's important is that there was a monastery here. What we also know is that monastery became a major centre of influence for spreading the monastic way. We know that people from Ireland came and were trained here. We also know that Ninian was a great evangelist and spent a lot of time, probably in coracles perhaps even, up and down this coast travelling, spreading the gospel of Christ. But we need to look further, we need to find out more, and the best way to do that probably is to find people locally who've done the work, so we don't have to do it, and find out from them what they know about Ninian. And that's what planned now. We hope to find some people. And anyway, Kevin and Ellen have got to start the coracle course. So let's get them started, and let's get all underway in our search for St Ninian. And what you see around us is all the work of Jean Patterson. Jean's done a great job organising Ninian for Real. We're surrounded by crafts, by cards, and by a display which outlines the house that John built, with special emphasis on the life of Ninian. But things don't just happen. People have to show initiative, get ideas, and then actually do the work. So Jean, what prompted you to organise Ninian for Real?
Well, it goes back a very long way, really. In 1984, I think it was, they started the excavations at the Whithorn dig. And somebody there had opened the Bible in the church at Ezekiel 37, is it, the Valley of Dry Bones? And the question, can these bones live? And up to that point, it seemed that the message that was being put out about Ninian was missing the point. Right. There was no Christian message to it at all. And as I'd pilgrims that come here to see the dig, they ought to get the message that Ninian taught, and that has been with me for years.
Jean was surrounded by lots of hard work. I mean, the crafts that you've made, how long it took you to do these actual posters and everything.
I think I started in the middle of last summer, so it must be about a year altogether.
Right.
In bits and pieces. The actual week is just having everybody here. It's the different people that you meet, and it's the sense, it's an outworking of community that you don't very often get when you're able to work together and yet have time to share.
We've had a great time here. I've really enjoyed the last 4 days. What's encouraged me most is that Jean's got the idea, taken the initiative, and done the whole lot. With a little support from the community, about that much. But it just goes to show as well, if God speaks to you, gives you an idea, he can also give you the ability, even when you might feel vulnerable about it, to actually carry it out. The end of the coracle course now. There's only 2 more days left, and on Saturday, if you look at the harbour behind us, this is where the lads and lasses who'll be making the coracles are going to take off from. Just in case none of them come back, because the currents we found are very strong here, we've collared Dave here, who's been on the course. Just ask him how he's been getting. Dave, just tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Well, John, I'm from the Dumfries. I'm a computer engineer by trade, and to be honest, I've always been fascinated with coracles, and when I saw the course was on down here and I had holidays due, I thought it was the time to do it.
Dave, what have you enjoyed most about doing the course?
I think so far, just the whole experience actually, creating something from scratch myself. The fact that this started off as a pile of slats of wood 2 days, 3 days ago, and now I've got a usable coracle, I hope.
Jean's introduced us to lots of interesting people in Whithorn. One of the chaps on Kev's coracle course, Forrest Brewster, he's done an interesting little booklet on St Kilda. But we've also met Forrest's wife, Donna, and we found out that we've got a lot in common. I'm just going to ask Donna a few questions, and you'll get a few surprises. The first question, quite simply, is Donna's actually been to Celtic with Forrest. I was dead excited to find that out, but also found out that she's made some interesting discoveries in the same way that we have.
We went to Ephesus a few years ago on holiday just because it was a cheap place to have a holiday. We went to stay in Kushidasi. But having studied theology, I thought I'd read up on it a bit before I went. I knew it had a Christian connection. So I read it a bit in the Bible and a bit in the Bible dictionaries and encyclopedias, and got hold of a blue guide to Turkey and made the astonishing discovery that it was more about John to do with Ephesus than ever there had been about St. Paul. I was astonished to discover that it was from there that he had written his gospel, and I read the gospel with a new light. And I was so intrigued by this, I began to pursue John's influence from that place, and was astonished to discover that it seemed to lead directly to France and straight into the lap of Martin of Tours, from whom I knew the influence came from Ninian. I'd lived so near here for many years, recognized that Ninian was the one who had brought the Christian gospel and established the church in a major way in Scotland, and had never recognized his link back with the early church in that way. So I was thrilled and astounded to make such a strong connection between where I lived and the very heart of Christ through John.
We're here in Whithorn. Tell us what you've discovered about Ninian, because I know you've been on travels and you've with Forrest.
Yes, we decided that we would, in this year of commemoration of Ninian, we would make a token visit to all the Ninian sites in the north of England and Scotland, all the places that bore the name of Ninian, St Ninian's Well, or St Ninian's Chapel, or St Ninian's Croftlands, or whatever. Even great medieval cathedrals that had an altar or a chapel commemorating Ninian. and that from each site we would bring a stone back to Whithorn as a commemoration for the year's celebration. We started off on this journey a few months ago and began to get the strangest sense as we did so. As we came to about the third place, it was like the first place, and we came to the fifth place, and it was like the second and fourth place, and a pattern began to emerge, a land similarity between all the sites. And then we began to recognize that all the places we found that bore the name of Ninian by custom, in actual fact, are in many ways a replica of the sites that Ninian established here in Whithorn, where he's known to have had his home. I think Ninian captured the very spirit of John, the beloved disciple. I feel that Ninian was one who cared about the people he went to. I feel that he had a passion for people that drove him on to the farthest reaches of the land. I feel that Ninian was compelled very deeply by the message that Christ had said the gospel was to be preached to the uttermost ends of the earth, and that in Ninian's own lifetime, or immediately afterwards, what was known at that time as the uttermost ends of the earth were reached for the gospel.
Thanks to Donna for all she shared with us. One of the things that keeps coming home to me is that it's no good just talking about the saints as if they're some faraway people. I wonder what Ninian would think of how Whithorn is today, how things are today. The more that I travel around, the more that we visit these places, Ninian doesn't become far away, it becomes quite close. I can almost feel him giving us a kick up the backside and saying, it's time to pray, it's time to seek God again. And perhaps as a community, one of the things we can do is not just be serious about our interest in the history of places, but serious about our prayer that God will work again as he has done in the past. Ninian was a desert man, and wherever you find desert people, you always find places of solitude. It's said that Ninian used to come down here and spend long periods of time away from the monastery, away from all the busyness of the responsibilities that he had. To know God, to love God, is the first rule of the Celtic Church. It's absolutely essential. That's the key to understanding Celtic Christianity. Monasticism is so easy to pass on. The desert tradition is so easy to pass on. It was that tradition that Ninian learned from Martin of Tours. But there was one subtle difference between Martin and the Desert Fathers. Where the Fathers waited for people to come to them and talk to them, Martin learned from Hilary that it was also wise to go to the people. And what we've learned from Donna is that Ninian was definitely a lover of people. Donna and her husband have travelled up and down Scotland, finding places that are dedicated to Ninian, places that obviously Ninian and the other monks visited, travelling with the good news. But people also came to the monastery, and one of the many travellers that came over here was Enda, can't even say it, Enda's from Ireland, and it's off to Ireland we go now, because from Ninian, from this cave, came a whole movement that was to spread through the Irish nation and from the Irish nation into Europe. Ninian would just do what he had been taught. He would pass on a tradition, and that tradition would spread and be responsible for evangelising Europe.